Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all my Lord of Dragons Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. This is a deck that I've been wanting to make for a while, one of Kaiba's signature monsters, the Lord of Dragons, focusing on using this card and the Flute of Summoning Dragon to be able to summon out multiples of Kaiba's dragon monsters. One of my favorite scenes from the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime is when this card was used along with Kaiba's two Flute of Summoning Dragons to summon out 3 Blue Eyes White Dragon and Hyozenru for one of Kaiba's starting turns. It was just a really awesome play that I like to see, and we'll use the majority of the Lord of Dragons support for this deck, along with some pretty iconic dragon support to go along with these cards. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. We'll go ahead and start off with the actual Lord of Dragon lineup. For our main go-to monster, we're running 3 copies of this card. It has a pretty standard effect. Dragon-type monsters on the field cannot be targeted by spell, trap, or card effects, so it protects any of the Dragon-type monsters that you would make in this deck, and being a spellcaster-type monster allows us to have a bit of an engine to work with for the spell and trap card lineup to be able to summon this card out. And also for the fact that this card is part of a Fusion King Dragoon, we can use cards like Fusion Deployment to get it out of the deck all the faster. We won't actually be making this card in the deck, it's just going to be used as part of the engine for Fusion Deployment. We are also running 3 copies of Lady of Dragons. Your opponent cannot target face-up Dragon-type monsters you control for attacks. If this card on the field will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can send one Dragon-type monster from your hand to the graveyard instead. So, more of a protection option for the attacks for our dragon monsters. So, while the card effects are taken by Lord of Dragon, you use Lady of Dragon to be able to stop those cards as well, for just being able to set up some other Dragon-type monsters, which we have plenty of in the deck, along with the Lord monsters that we run. And also 3 copies of Dictator of Dragons. While you control a Blue Eyes monster, you choose the attack targets for your opponent's attacks. You can only use each of the following effects of Dictator of Dragons once per turn. You can send one Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand or deck to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. And you can discard one Blue Eyes White Dragon or one card that mentions it, then target a Blue Eyes in your graveyard and special summon it. So a bit of a faster way to get some of the resources out into the field as well for our Blue Eyes engine that we run in the deck, being one of the better dragons to be able to summon out using this card, with the last of the dragon lineup being the King of Dragons. We have 2 copies of this card in the deck. If you wanted to, you could always try and drop down Lady of Dragons for a 3rd copy of this card. It becomes Lord of Dragons while on the field. When this card is normal summon, you can discard 1 spell or trap to add 1 Flute of Summoning Dragon, Melody of the Awakening Dragon, or Dragon Revival Rhapsody from your deck to your hand. Having a search for 3 of the main spells that we run in the deck as well is a big help with this card. And for the fact that this card also counts as Lord of Dragon while on the field means that we can use the Flute of Summoning Dragon to be able to, special summon out dragon monsters from our hand onto the field. For the dragon lineup that we run in the deck, of course, we're running the 3 Blue Eyes White Dragon, just the standard to go for in this deck. They're powerhouse dragons. They work very well with the engine consistency for the Dictator of Dragons, and we have some other dragons that also work well with this lineup, some of them being more Blue Eyes monsters, including 2 Blue Eyes Jet Dragon and 2 Blue Eyes Alternative Dragon. Now, while Alternative Dragon cannot be special summoned out with the use of the Flute of Summoning Dragon, we have more than enough other reveal Blue Eyes monster options to summon out this dragon and give us more of a destruction lineup to use. But we can summon out cards like Blue Eyes Jet Dragon and Blue Eyes White Dragon using the Flute of Summoning Dragon. With the last of the dragon lineup, I run 1 copy of Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon and also 1 Dark Hole Dragon, both just being bigger level 8 boss monsters with their own card effect special summon abilities like Dark Hole Dragon, and then the banish option with Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon. And then also for the rest of the main deck monsters, 3 copies of the White Stone of Legend. If this card is sent to the graveyard, add 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon from your deck to your hand. So this can be also part of the discard cost for your use of some of your other engines that we have in the deck, which we'll get to in the spell lineup. It has an if sent effect, so you won't miss timing with the White Stone of Legend as well. And I chose this over the White Stone of the Ancients because we want to be able to add the Blue Eyes White Dragon immediately and not during the end phase, so we can use it it with our next go-to spell, which is the Flute of Summoning Dragon. Honestly, the reason I was motivated to make this deck is when I pulled the QCR copy of the Flute of Summoning Dragon. Very, very awesome, especially. So 3 of this card, you special summon up to 2 Dragon-type monsters from your hand. Lord of Dragons must be on the field to activate and resolve this effect. So I always just picture, the Lord of Dragons with both of the flutes in his hand, summoning out the 4 dragons that Kaiba had in his hand onto the field. Just a quick way to get resources onto the field for this spell, and also very hard to negate because it summons from the hand, so this card cannot be Ash Blossomed. It just summons out the dragon monsters from your hand to the field for you then to be able to use. But the search power you do need for the dragons into your hand is the Melody of Awakening Dragon. You discard 1 card, add up to 2 dragon-type monsters with 3,000 or more attack and 2,500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. So this just grabs you the 2 blue eyes from your deck to your hand by discarding a card. If you discard the White Stone of Legend, then you can add the 3rd blue eyes, giving you 3 blue eyes white dragon in your hand to then be able to use, having a 2 special summon option with the flute. But the big goal obviously will be to recreate Kaiba's scene with the 2 Flute of Summoning Dragons. For more spell support, 2 copies of Dragon Revival Rhapsody. If you control a spellcaster monster, target up to 2 dragon monsters in your graveyard, including at least 1 normal monster. Special summon them. Your opponent takes no damage for this turn. You can activate 1 Dragon Revival Rhapsody per turn. It's another card that can be searched off of the go-to King of Dragons. So with a discard of a spell or trap to add this card, it all works valid depending on what you want to use for that specific special summon. And with the majority of the Blue Eyes monsters having at least 1 normal monster, we can then grab some of the other dragon monsters in our graveyard back onto the field, also using this card. Also 2 copies of Return of the Dragon Lords, more special summon power for a level 7 or 8 dragon monster, and then protection if it will be destroyed by battle or card effect by banishing from the graveyard. And then for some of our other spells, 3 copies of the Fusion Deployment. As I said, you reveal a fusion monster in your extra deck, special summon from your hand or deck one of the fusion materials whose name is mentioned on that monster. So this is just a faster way to be able to summon out the Lord of Dragons onto the field by revealing King Dragoon from our extra deck to be able to do so. And lastly, for the 1-ofs for the spells, 1 copy of the Wingbeat of Giant Dragon. Return 1 level 5 or higher dragon-type monster you control to the hand to destroy all spell traps on the field. So more of a destruction option for our opponent's back row. And just being able to return a dragon monster we control to the hand, we can then summon it back using other Lord of monsters that we have. And then also 1 Magician's right hand and 1 Magician's left hand. If you didn't want to run Wingbeat of a Giant Dragon, you can always try Secret Village of Spellcasters, because most of the time with this deck you will have a Spellcaster-type monster on the field, so then you can just lock your opponent out of using spells to begin with, while Magician's right and left hand help with the trap and spell negation and destruction while you have that Spellcaster type monster also. The only trap we run in the deck is the 1 copy of Castle of Dragon Souls. Once per turn, you can banish 1 dragon monster from your graveyard, target 1 monster you control. It gains 700 attack until the end of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. And when this face-up card on the field is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 of your banished dragon monsters, special summon that target. You go and activate 1 Castle of Dragon Souls, just an extra boost for our Lord of Dragons on the field. It does only have 1,200 attack points, so we need sort of a protection option, using this card as a means to do so for the 1 trap spot. If you didn't want to run the Castle of Dragon Souls, we are running the Dark Hole Dragon, which does search out Dark Hole. So if you wanted to, you could replace this trap for a single copy of Dark Hole to be able to search off of this card. For the extra deck, we have the 1 copy of King Dragoon. We only use it for the Fusion Deployment reveal, so that's really all we need for the reveal of this card to be able to special summon a Lord of Dragons from our deck to the field. For the Link monsters, 1 copy of our Artemis Magistus Moon Maiden, and this is just another send Link option for our Lord of Dragon or any of our other level 4 spellcaster monsters. Selene, Queen of the Master Magicians, to build up the spell counters, to then special summon a spellcaster back from our graveyard of choice to a zone this card points to. 1 Heretic Seal of Heavenly Spheres, 1 Lena the Light Charmer, 1 IP Masquerena, and 1 SP Little Knight for some of the other Link monsters that we run, along with 1 Relinquish Anima and 1 Almirage to go for the White Stone of Legend, and 1 Nightmare Unicorn to finish off the Link monsters, with our Xyz monsters being the 1 Heretic Sun Dragon, the 1 number 90, and the 1 number 38 and the 1 Sky Crisis, just for some more dragon options to be able to go into, aside from number 90 being a warrior and Sky Crisis being a fiend, with our synchro monster being Azurized Silver Dragon, just to have a level 9 tuner option, because we can revive monsters with Dragon Revival Rhapsody, and basically targeting 2 dragon monsters, with our White Stone of Legend being a dragon monster. We can summon this card, and our Blue Eyes back onto the field to then be able to use for that synchro. We can also go, don't forget, if you have the option in your hand with the Flute of Summoning Dragon, summoning 2 dragon monsters from your hand, your White Stone of Legend does count as a dragon monster, so these 2 could also ideally be a special summon on the field using that spell. For some of the go-to plays in the deck, as I said before, your Lord of Dragons is a big part of your summons. So if you, whether you have it or Fusion Deployment in your hand, if you open up this card and then the additional Flute of Summoning Dragon, you have a special summon option available to you if you have other dragon options. So it all depends on what you have in your hand. But one of my favorite go-to plays definitely does revolve around the summon of your hand. So let's say this is your 5-hand consistency. If you have the Melody of the Awakened Dragon, Fusion Deployment, Flute of Summoning Dragons, 1 random dragon in your hand, and then just 1 additional card to discard. If you have the White Stone of Legend, it's all the better. So this would be, I would say, one of the perfect hands in the deck. Even more perfect if you draw into a second copy of the Flute of Summoning Dragon, because then with this hand, you'll be able to recreate the play that Kaiba did from the anime. So what you do is you activate your Fusion Deployment, you reveal the King Dragoon. This will then give you the Lord of D on the field. You can summon it in defense just as more of a protection option with it. You can then go for the Melody of the Awakening Dragon, discarding your White Stone of Legend to then add 2 additional monsters, dragons of choice, from your deck to your hand. So with this play, you can just add the 2 Blue Eyes. The White Stone of Legend will then activating, then letting you add the 3rd Blue Eyes from your deck to your hand. So then in your hand, you have the 4 dragon monsters and the 2 Flute of Summoning Dragon. So then, recreating the play, you will then use the 2 Flute of Summoning Dragons to then fill your field with the 3 Blue Eyes White Dragon and then the additional dragon monster of choice. I know Kaiba summoned out Hyozanru, but we just have some stronger dragon options to be able to go for in this deck. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Like I said, this was just a fun deck that I've been looking at making, and very happy with the results of it as well. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.